we have this mutual respect for each other. So everybody in the band has like a musical place. We are not in the band because we are friends. Of course, that is part of it, but there is a musical purpose for everybody in the band. And if we would change one person, then the sound would change also. So we are nobody's like a hired gun, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And that is creating also this mutual respect that of course we piss each other's off and annoy each other with annoying ideas and annoying opinions, but it's kind of like, I think it's similar to being kind of with your brothers on the road. you get pissed off, but then you just tolerate it and come to terms with it.
Greetings, Legion. Welcome to episode 243 of Into the Necrosphere. This week, I am catching up with Toni Hietamäki, aka Ontto, of Finland's own Oransi Pazuzu. They've got a brand new album due for release on October the 11th called Muuntautuja. That's going to be coming out on Nuclear Blast Records. It is absolutely stunning. It is the follow-up to the equally sensational Mestarin Kinsey that came out in 2020. And as I've mentioned many times before on the podcast, I've really wanted to have somebody from Oransi Pazuzu on for about as long as this podcast has been running. We spoke all about the birth of the new record. We spoke about Toni's own musical evolution. We spoke about how Death Grips fits into the Oransi Pazuzu story and much, much more. That's coming up very shortly. But before we get to that, we travel to Western Perth in Australia to check out an independent band called Vestigial. They reached out to me and asked me to check out their new single, Quantified Revelations. I loved it. I think you guys are going to love it. This is what it sounds like. You just heard Vestigial with their brand new track, Quantified Revelations. That's available on Bandcamp right now. As always, I'll post the link in the description to the podcast. So head over there, buy yourself something, and of course, let them know who sent you. If you are in an unsigned band and you've just spent your last dime on your best ever recording, drop me a line at intothenecrosphere@gmail.com or hit me up on Instagram or Facebook, maybe even on X. And if I like what I hear, then I will play it on the show. I've got a bit of a backlog, so of course, if you don't hear what you've sent me straight away, it doesn't mean that I think it's trash. I just, I kind of need to play them as they come in. Either way, supporting independent music on Into the Necrosphere is just one of the many things we do. And if you like what you've heard so far, and you like the idea of long-form conversation where no topic is off limits, a news rant where I, this week alone, am going to be listening to brand new tracks by the likes of Hypothesis, Stormcast, Annihilator, and various other bands, as well as telling you what my thoughts were on the brand new Demi Moore movie, The Substance, then this is the podcast for you. All you need to do is elbow drop the subscribe button on your platform of choice, whether that be Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, basically wherever you consume your podcasts from. You should also, if you like this show, be following my fellow horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, starting on a Monday with Brandon Legion and Horrorwolf 666. Of course, yours truly casts hexes and slays poses every Tuesday on Into the Necrosphere. Every Wednesday, Sensei Mike Hill of the bands Tombs and Scorpion Throne brings you another episode of Everything Went Black. We double up your pleasure every other Wednesday when Cheyenne of the band Trivax deploys another episode of Iblis Manifestations. Then on a Thursday, we start off with Necromaniacs. Mike Hill returns for that alongside his co-hosts Sheriff Mike Scondado and Professor Jeff Kashid. That is one of my absolute favorites of the week. They review new and old horror movies. This past week, they had The Oddity on tap. It is always super entertaining, super informative, always a good time. And if the good times weren't enough, we also bring you on a Thursday and again on a Sunday, the Sinister Minister, Carl Hikara, taking you on a curated journey through the dark, the weird, the occult, the arcane, and the esoteric with his podcast, Soul Knocks. So make sure that you are following us all, follow us on the socials, share the episodes with friends, voice them on enemies, and then very importantly, like I hinted earlier, stay tuned when I'm done talking to Toni, because I am going to be doing a news rant this week, one for the ages, my friends. Right now, though, sit back and enjoy as I welcome to Into the Necrosphere for the first time ever, Ontto of Oransi Pazuzu. I'm going to apologize well in advance of this conversation for all the many times that I am going to completely and utterly butcher the Finnish language with my dreadful pronunciations.
No worries.
So how's everything going with you, man?
Yeah, it's all good. We are just now chilling a bit and waiting for the new album come out, and it's like almost exactly 1 month away. And then after the album is released, we are gonna hit the road with Solstafir, and then we're gonna do this European tour for some weeks in the November.
Did your chilling out over the summer include what most of my Scandinavian friends typically do, which is like 4 or 5 weeks away at the beach, or was it a bit more time intensive than that?
I haven't been doing much in the summertime, to be frank. So we've been just relieved that the album is now finally done, and like I've been chilling with my family and taking some time off, and now we're slowly starting to activate with the band thing again.
How have you felt about the response so far to the first couple of singles that you guys have put out? Because I think at this point, or the point that we're recording this, you've got 2 singles out. The first one that you put out was the title track, and then you put out Velotis, which I want to touch on the video in a second, because that blew my mind as much as the song. But I mean, I get the general feeling that people are pretty impressed by what they've heard so far.
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised that singles have been gotten so good attention. I was confident, especially on the first single, that was kind of a new thing for us with all the electronic stuff going on in that song, and but it's kind of short song and it has a chorus and all that kind of things going on. So I think that's a good introduction to this our new album sound. But the second single was actually a bit surprising that it also was received very well, because I think it was not like the easiest song of the album. It's quite ambitious and has all of that noise thing going on. And then the video was, of course, one thing.
I was about to say, you decided, well, look, we're going to make the song difficult and challenging, but let's add an extra layer to that with the music video. Like, it's not something that, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, this isn't something that they're going to show on, if MTV still showed music videos, you're not seeing this during the day, that's for sure.
Yeah, we gave the director completely full free hands, and we just, usually we like to work so that we trust the people that we work with, and we trust that they have this artistic vision, and when they commit to making, for example, music video or album cover or something like that, then we usually don't like to dictate too much. And I think this time it worked really well on both of the videos that we have released. I'm really happy about those.
It's amazing, actually, how well I think he captured the experience of listening to Oransi Pazuzu. Because if I go back to the previous record too, and again, here comes the first fucking finished disaster, Mr. and Kinsey. As I'm listening to the record, and I've listened to it upwards of 100 times now. The thing I keep coming back to is it feels like I'm in the middle of a rave DJ'd by guys from black metal bands in the middle of hell. That's kind of, it's this incredible trip. And, if I think about, records that make you feel like you've been on this just crazy fucking psychedelic journey, bizarrely, the one that comes closest for me to the experience that I had with Mr. and Kinsey, not really an album, it's an EP. It's Irony is a Dead Scene, the Dillinger Escape Plan EP that they did with Mike Patton. It was kind of the same sort of just waking musical nightmare, but in the best possible way. How did you, first of all, how did you feel about the response to that record? Because that was, to me, and sorry, I didn't mean to give you or to try and preempt your answer, but that to me felt really like, in many ways, like a defining record for you guys. Like, it was a very much, if anyone hadn't been paying notice or paying attention previously, this was the one that was really going to make them sit up and go, fuck me, this is something completely different and unique I wouldn't say the black metal scene, but just in the music scene generally. Yeah,
Mestari Kynsi was a big album for us, of course, musically, because we had also big part of that was that Nico was now a full-time member, the second guitarist, after Moit departed the band after the Värähteli album. So we made 4 albums with the same lineup, and Nico was kind of like a touring guitarist for us for many years. But then when he fully joined the band and fully joined the music composition process also, that I think was one big part of the reasons why the Mestarin Kynsi turned out the way it did. And also it kind of like harvested the many years of our trying to find hypnotic and progressive ways, kind of finding our own sound in a way that took us quite a lot of time to do that. So I think it was a kind of culmination of many things. And of course it helped that we got help from a big record label to distribute that also. And got a proper studio budget to do all that stuff.
With Nico, how did you meet him, and how did you guys decide on him being the man to join the band full time? Because with the way that firstly, you touched on it earlier, you guys are very collaborative in the way that you write, but you have this incredibly unique sound. So finding somebody who fits into that dynamic and actually gets what you guys do and can, I would assume, based on what you said about his influence on that record, can supplement what everyone else brings to the band. That must be extraordinarily difficult.
Yeah, he's like a little bit younger dude than the rest of us, but he's from the similar scene and from the same area in Finland that we are also. Every one of us is also from the same area, and he kind of knows the scene, and he had these couple of really good bands, Domovoid and Kairanirse, and Kairanirse is still very active. Domovoid is maybe hibernating now, but we were like friends, and we knew each other, and then we figured out that when we realized that we need to have a live guitar player, because Moit couldn't do that many outside of Finland shows, that he was kind of like easy choice for that, because we knew that he knows what we are doing and he has good ideas. So it turned out very easily that he just slipped into the band, and kind of slowly, but then when Moit decided that he doesn't want to do this thing anymore, then Nico took the full-time duties, and that's where we are now.
What were some of the first ideas that he brought to Mester and Kinsey?
Well, I think the Kuulen ääniä song, the song that is like the second last song, that is one of the biggest writing from him, and also many of those electronic influences. Like he uses lots of sampler, and he's very into morphing the guitar sound so that you cannot recognize the sound anymore. It's not sounding like guitar at all. That is definitely part of his doing.
That Kuulen ääniä Monalta, that's my favorite song on that record. So that's why I was curious to know what he brought to the game. It's also very different for you guys. Like when he brought that idea to the table, what was the response from everybody else in the band?
Well, we were already like very interested to go like into this more electronic way, and we had been doing quite long progressive songs. Like on Värähtelijä we had our longest songs, and then we wanted to like streamline it a bit and go like more direct, and Nico was all about that also. So I don't know, it just felt it was not only his doing, it was like consensus between the band that we want to go more. We were trying to make it was kind of first step into this nightmarish raves kind of thing, and now we're kind of continuing from that on the new album.
Well, I was going to say, so the title track off the new album, I don't know whether I'm correct in this or not, but there's that opening electronic sequence on that song reminds me a little bit of Death Grips. Is there anybody in the fan that's a fan, especially No Love Deep Web? There's like a couple of songs on there that sort of have a similar sort of vibe. As a matter of fact, I think they even described it in a similar way, like, this is like being at a rave in the middle of hell. Is anyone in the band a Death Grips fan?
Absolutely. No Love Deep Web was like one of the biggest references for the new album. When
really? So I spotted it
you're not
correctly.
mistaken. Yeah.
No, okay, here's a question. Has anybody else spotted that yet?
I don't know.
The correct answer is no.
I love but yeah, I love the way that they like make these super intense sounds, and the songs are kind of minimalistic, but all the elements that are in the song are super in your face and unapologetic and kind of super intense, and that was very inspirational for us. We wanted to like add some of that and also some of more noisier elements to our music, and they were kind of like one of the beacons that we were checking when we wrote the new stuff.
When did you discover, on what record did you discover them?
I think it was the No Love record, but it was not when it was released. I was listening to them only like maybe 5 years or so.
So have you seen them live?
Once, yeah. They were playing in Helsinki on this festival.
Okay, gotcha. You've not seen them do like a headlining show yet?
No, it was super nice. It was this big black tent full of crazy Finns going insane. They really took the stage.
Brother, their shows are fucking wild. Like especially their headlining shows. So I remember I discovered them because there was somebody I knew who worked for I think it was Kasabian Publishing here in the UK. And like way back in 2010 or something, she said, check out this mixtape that this band has just put out called Ex-Military, because they put out that original mixtape on their website for free. And I checked it out and I was like, this is fucking brilliant. Like, this is just absolutely incredible. And then the Money Store came out, superb. But I saw them before the Money Store had been released. They played a show in Shoreditch here in London in this abandoned warehouse. And literally all they had on stage was like a desk lamp. was right behind. It was kind of shining behind Ride. And that's that. They had Zach on drums, they had the sampler, and they had Ride. It was one of the most fucking insane shows I've ever seen in my life. They turned on all of the lights, so the whole place was like pitch dark. Crazy atmosphere. Then later on, in probably 2019, I saw them touring Year of the Snitch, and I saw them play at Brixton Academy, and that was also nuts. They had this weird this kind of bizarre like sine wave that was just looping for about a half an hour before they started playing, and then all of a sudden you heard the Charles Manson sample that they used at the beginning of Beware. I was like, okay, now the show is going to start, and the crowd went fucking ballistic. Like I have seen at few other bands, including Slayer, Biohazard, etc. People just lost it.
Yeah, I can get that.
Yeah, they're extremely good at kind of tapping into the audience at a very visceral level, and then managing that energy up and down as the show goes on. And I've unfortunately never seen you guys play live, but when I've listened to your music, I've always thought to myself, like, I would imagine if you guys are delivering this correctly, at least the intent is exactly the same. Is that would that be fair to say?
I think we are aiming for this ecstatic feeling that you can get kind of detached from your body when you have this hypnotic repetition, and it is the tension is growing and it gets almost unbearable. And I think it is supposed to be that it's not so intellectual, let's say. It's more about the kind of this very physical experience, and also something that you are traveling inside your mind to a completely unknown place and kind of facing your troubles and that kind of things. So at least I get that kind of feelings when I am having a good night on stage, that I can totally relate to that statement.
Your stage performance. I mean, I know you guys have used lighting or different lighting and stuff like that in the past, but how far would you want to push the I wouldn't say necessarily the theatrical element of what you guys do, but things like lighting? I don't think you guys have ever used pyro, but if you could use pyro, like would you take it into that realm of visual spectacle? Or have you what is your ideal vision for what that live experience looks like, or how you convey that to the audience? Because you guys are generally speaking a very visual band, right? If you look at the music videos, album covers, there's a lot of intent behind every single thing that you do artistically. It's not just some bullshit that you slapping on the front of a CD and saying there's the new record.
Yeah, we are strong believers of this minimalistic way of music do the talking, and our live shows, our feelings are pretty intense in there, and we are trying to kind of boost that with strong lights that are quite minimalistic. That we have the whole duration of the band, we have had the same light guy Mikko, and he's very committed to this band, and the vision that we are going for is that we are kind of, the stage is altered by the colors into different feelings, and the feeling, we have like blue song and then we have a red song, and that kind of very, very simple minimalistic thinking, and we don't do like much. We haven't done like much video screens or like backdrops with band logos and that kind of thing. We kind of like to make this look like you are floating kind of in a void, and there is only us playing in some unknown place, and the colors are shifting that feeling that each song has.
What I'm picking up from what you're saying is there's definitely a very, very much a single-minded focus from you and everybody else in the band for what Oransi Pazuzu should represent and how the band should represent itself. Where did you guys all meet? Like because it feels like, to me, it's a very unique coming together of creative minds.
We have known each other since the childhood, basically, or from teenage years. So we grew up in this small town Seinäjoki in Finland and went to same high school, and we met there, and then we had different kind of band makings, like jamming in different groups and seeing each other and partying, and we're like friends from very, very many years. And eventually that at some point led to this band being born in, I think it was 2007. But it's like based on this kind of brotherly friendship.
Is that something that has continued to last as the band has gotten older, as you guys have gotten older? Because Gigan, recently there's been news of a couple of folks dropping bands midway through a tour and stuff like that. And I always look at that and I go, well, on one hand, I can kind of understand it, because as a man myself, my experience was you do most of your growing up between 20 and 35. And actually you come out at the other side, sometimes very, very different to what you were going in. A lot of the people that I was friends with at school, can't stand the sight of now. So I'm always curious, like when a relationship in a band dates back that far, how do you manage to keep it intact, or does it just keep itself intact?
Well, yeah, that's a complicated question, but I think everybody of us has, of course, changed since the days that we were 20 years. But I think we have this mutual respect for each other. So everybody in the band has like a musical place. We are not in the band because we are friends. Of course, that is part of it, but there is a musical purpose for everybody in the band. And if we would change one person, then the sound would change also. So we are nobody's like a hired gun, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And that is creating also this mutual respect that of course we piss each other's off and annoy each other with annoying ideas and annoying opinions, but it's kind of like, I think it's similar to being kind of with your brothers on the road. you get pissed off, but then you just tolerate it and come to terms with it, and that is worked really well with us. And I think it's also part of because everybody of us is pretty chilled out persons. Like we like to have fun, but it's not like super crazy shit all the time. So it makes also living a little bit easier.
What was your musical background? What were the first bands that you played in?
I was actually in a youngster orchestra playing trombone for like 10, when I was 10 or 12, and started like with classical music, and then when I was a teenager I got into rock music and all that kind of things, and I was having many years like these local bands, but not many like lasted very long, and that's so at some point we just learned how to play a little bit more, like focus a little bit more on what we are doing, and like trying to get those ideas to a more like next level and pushing a little bit more.
Who got you playing in the orchestra? Because I spoke to somebody a while back who mentioned to me that a lot of the, or at least as I understood it from him, there's quite a big I was not to say scene, but there's like, well, there's a lot of people that end up playing in musical instruments because they play in like the church orchestra or the church music group or whatever the case may be, or that's at least how they sort of are introduced to music, and then eventually, obviously they say goodbye to that and they go their own way. But how did you end up playing in an orchestra?
Well, if it's a part of like this Finnish system that they used to have this thing called music classes. Like when you are like 8 years old, I think, you have this test. Everybody has the same test, and then some of the people are invited to that like special class that has more music. And I was one of those lucky ones who got there, and that's kind of the reason why I started making music more seriously.
What sort of questions do they ask you in the test?
No, it's like you have to like that's like clap your hands after me kind of test.
Ah, okay, all right. they don't say suck on this. Depending on that, you look like you could play mean trombone, boy.
Yeah, maybe on the flute test, but
So how old were you when you started that?
I was like kid. I was 8 years old, 9.
And how long did you do it for?
I did it for like the high school years. I think I kind of stopped playing in those orchestras when I was like 19.
Oh wow! Okay, so it's not an insignificant period of time of your
No.
life.
I was like thinking of actually going pro, but then I thought that no, maybe the instrument was kind of wrong for me. I got tired of it.
What were some of the things that you learned playing in an orchestra, if any, that has helped you in Oransi Pazuzu or in any other of the musical endeavors that you've undertaken?
I think I learned a lot, like about not being necessarily the center of things happening in music. Like I can stand on the background and keep the beat, like that kind of things. And also figuring out kind of the orchestration of the band also, that every instrument has its purpose and why certain instrument is doing what. And I think of course, we are not composing music like that. We are like taking some notebook and putting notes on it. But when you are like listening to jams and listening what is working and what is not, then it's a helpful tool that you have that kind of thinking also.
Yeah, I'm just as you mentioned it, I was replaying a couple of things in my head, or a couple of your songs in my head. One thing I think you guys have done very, very well on all of your records, the last one in particular, you're a band that definitely knows when to show restraint and when to really turn on or turn up the complexity. And you kind of mentioning what you learned when you played in an orchestra, I would suggest that's a similar principle, no?
That is one part of it, and also we have we share and we have learned from each other. So it is not only me in the band that has some of that kind of background, and we are not like, this is all done by trial and error. So we are testing different stuff and trying new things, and that's how we get there. And one I think key things is that Ville, the keyboard player, he is like a professional sound designer for like theater stuff, and his thinking is that super visual and all about, he's like zero interested about like technicalities and that kind of things, and he's like all about the feeling and the drama and the kind of what you are saying, that you choose the situation when you go full in, and then you pull back when you are not needed. I think he is like, at least I feel that I have learned a lot from him in that thinking.
How democratic is the songwriting process for Oransi Pazuzu? Do you guys, I mean, you were mentioning earlier about listening back to jams, but I guess how open do you all have to be to each other's ideas for the band to exist and function the way that it does?
Everybody needs to have a say, and we usually go that route, that we have like initial idea, like riff or something that we start with, and then we jam it, and everybody kind of tries to find this own angle to it, and then we record jams and listen to them, and then we discuss them. Like we are like, sometimes I feel like we are talking more than playing in the band practice, like all this yada yada, you need to slow down, you need to go down, you need to whatever, and that is kind of like how we function as a group.
Going back to what you mentioned about discovering rock music, well, can you remember the first rock music that you discovered?
Guns N' Roses was the introduction to rock for me.
Which album?
Use Your Illusion.
1 or 2?
It was a mixtape from my friend. So
okay.
It was.
I'm a student. I'm a student of those two records, which is why I ask. That to me, by the way, is another great example of a record where, I mean, not all the songs, but when it's at its absolute peak, everyone knows exactly what they should and shouldn't be doing. Like you listen to a song like "Pretty Tied Up," the opening riff or the opening sequence of that song. There's I think it's Slash doing like the and then you've got Izzy just coming over the top like and he just lets the guitar ring. And if you remove that track from the song, if you removed Izzy Stradlin's guitar track from the song would probably be, middling 5 out of 10 rock song. But just what he does with that simple note that he lets, or that simple chord that he lets linger over the top of that main riff, it elevates it to just total badassness. In my view, one of the best ever Guns N' Roses songs. But again, as I said, the whole record, when it's at its best, it's when every single person in that band knows exactly what they should and shouldn't be doing, like when to step into the spotlight, when to step back. So as soon as I could go on talking about Guns N' Roses and Use Your Illusion in particular forever, but it's interesting that's one of the
I totally agree about them, like knowing what to do, and it's such a like huge album for me from growing up as a kid. So I was like maybe 10 when I listened to it. So it's very hard to analyze like that. It's kind of like all the.
When you're 10, all you're listening for is in my case, I was like, I want to hear the riffs, I want to hear the tough kindness. I Pretty Tied Up was actually the first song I heard. It was the first Guns N' Roses song I properly heard. I'd probably heard Sweet Child of Mine and stuff like that on the radio, but the one I sat down and listened to with attention was Pretty Tied Up.
I heard the knocking on heaven's door the first time, and I thought that, boy, this guy is sounding really annoying. And then my friend taped me the kind of mixtape, and then I got it like this actually is good stuff.
Yeah, he's got I've often sat listening to him sing, and then I'll go, what is it about this guy that is so mesmerizing when he sings, like on those earlier albums, especially. Like if you hold him in front of a panel of judges and people that are judging the quality of somebody's voice, no one's going to go, wow, that Axl is fucking incredible. I want him singing in, I don't know, some musical or whatever the case may be. He doesn't have a classic. My point is, he doesn't have a classically great voice, and yet he is undisputedly one of the best singers on the face of the earth. At least he was.
Inhuman, and it's kind of like it elevates the music that he's sounding so fucking freakish but he also knows exactly how to build the song. Like he uses his lower register, like for a really big effect, and then goes like these super high shrieks. And I am very big fan of that kind of thing.
Yeah. And he sounds incredibly unique. Like there is no one on earth that can replicate. You can't say to somebody, "Hey, go do, Reckless Life, or go do Civil War, or go do Right Next Door to Hell." Right Next Door to Hell. I mean, a great example of exactly what you said now. Like he uses so many different of his techniques on that song to just absolutely phenomenal effect.
But I think the Koma is my favorite. It was also your favorite. That was my favorite then, and it's my favorite now.
Yeah, it is a superb song. I'll always have a soft spot for Pretty Tied Up. I really, really love, and this is going to possibly cost me my cult credentials, but I really love Yesterday's. I think
I like that too. It's a nice, easygoing song. I like it very much. I think it's much better than many of their like rocker songs.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I love The Garden. Estranged, absolutely phenomenal. 14 years, fucking brilliant. The only thing that makes me sad about that record is knowing that, I mean, you can hear it on this new stuff that they've put out. It's unlistenable as far as I'm concerned. But, there's two things about that band, unfortunately, that's just true. Without Izzy in the band and without the drugs, I'm afraid there is no Guns N' Roses. You cannot recreate what they did on User Illusion or on Appetite for Destruction without those two elements. They need the chaos and the craziness around them, I think, to do that artistically. And Izzy Stradlin must be in the band. He cannot not be in the band.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And like the whole spot in the time that when they actually did it was also the perfect timing for them, like the kind of the culmination of hair metal era, and just before the grunge, they were like the last big hair band.
the last big shot out of the cannon. I mean, they were a shot out of a cannon. They were the fucking biggest band on the face of the earth. Like nowadays, when I look at some of the drivel that my daughter sometimes listens to or tries to show me, she showed me something the other day. I can't even remember the name of the song. Daybreak, I think, is a song. Very popular. People hear it on the radio all the time. And this fucking fool is on stage in his flip-flops and just like a pair of, it looks like tracksuit bottoms. It looks like he rolled out of his basement after playing World of Warcraft all night, came to do a quick show, and he's back again. And I said to her, when I was young, the guys that I listened to when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, my parents were fucking terrified of them, and rightfully so. They look like criminals. They look like vagrants. And I was thinking specifically of Guns N' Roses. Like, if you see that Guns N' Roses Live in Paris video, I mean, I don't know whether you remember that live show, but I mean, that is, like, I was slightly nervous watching that. So imagine your parents.
Yeah.
That's how, but the point is, that's how music should be.
Yeah.
So after Guns N' Roses, what did you evolve to then? Because there are so many different styles that they go into Oransi Pazuzu and turn it into the band that it is. I mean, you guys must have along the way had a little taste of mayhem, black metal, and a couple of other things like that. Like, what was your evolution from Guns N' Roses?
Like, I listened to, like, I became this like music nerd, and I got all the possible rock and alternative and punk and metal and jazz albums that I found interesting, and tried to like just check out as much as interesting music as I could. And I think it's the same with every one of us. And at some point of that, I kind of started to digging into these older 70s German bands and all that Krautrock era, like Neu and Kraftwerk and Can and Faust, and got really interested about that minimal and repetitive music. And there was this band from Finland called Circle. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No.
It's a band from this town Pori. That's really legendary band. They started in the start of the 90s, and then they made like 1 decade of these super hypnotic looping kind of instrumental metal albums. If you know the band Loop, it's actually quite close to that style, but they were like just repeating the same riff until you almost get like mad, like you feel like you're losing your mind because it's just like super intense. And that was like my big aha moment, that you can use very minimal elements and make a super big effect with music. And at the same time I was listening to that kind of bands, I was also kind of like, I had heard black metal earlier, but I didn't kind of like get into it. I didn't understand it. It sounded like noise to me. But at the same time, I got into these old albums by Dark Throne, like Blaze in the Northern Sky and Transylvanian Hunger, especially the Panzerfaust, and both of those like big influences having big effect on me. That kind of, at least to me, it was kind of like basic building blocks of Oranssi Pazuzu. But yeah, and also we with especially with Juho, we had this nights that we listened to albums and drink beer and chill out, and we kind of had the similar taste and went to see Emperor and got more deeply into the black metal sound and kind of became like a little bit black metal fans. And then we realized that, okay, we want to like make this kind of very intense music that has this raw power of early black metal, but we didn't want to sound like those, and we couldn't, even if we would have wanted to sound like them, we couldn't do that because we were not like metal players really. And we started just like incorporate all of those elements into a same single pot, and then it started from there, I guess.
With that in mind, how do you feel about people that label Oransi Pazuzu black metal? Because I mean, I know you guys have said, quite openly in the past, you're not. I don't think that you are either. I think you're very much your own thing. But I feel like it's easier for a lot of people just to bundle you into that camp and go, well, they're a black metal band and they sound a little different to other black metal bands, but they're black metal all the same. Like, how do you feel about that as the person who's writing the music?
Well, obviously we are like in depth to the old black metal bands a lot because we have stolen so many musical things like the singing style and the riff style and all that kind of things. But we kind of think that it would be kind of faking if we would try to be like that. That's not really us, only that part. We have that intensity in the music, and that's like true, but I think for me it would feel like just like trying to copy those bands, and if we wouldn't like put some other ingredients into that, because we are also into this more dynamic thinking and kind of like progressive song structures and electronic influences, and we are just the most interesting thing in music for us is that you get this sensation that you don't really know what is happening, and it is sounding interesting, but you are like cannot pinpoint it exactly why, and that's kind of the thing that we are going for.
You mentioned that hypnotic looping approach to songwriting. I'm sure you're a man of good taste from what I can tell so far. But I'm sure you're a fan of this band. But it does that extremely well when they do it. They don't do it on every song, but they have deployed that from time to time. Killing Joke. And if I think about Killing Joke, is where that really comes to mind for me. There's a track called "Walking with Gods" on Hosannas from the Basement of Hell, and "Exorcism" of Pandemonium. Just great examples of that. Like, if you see Exorcism live in particular, they really sort of ramp up that hypnotic looping element of that song, and it just works so unbelievably well.
Yeah, you are correct, and Killing Joke, especially like the comeback, the Killing Joke and Hosianas, that era. Maybe those two albums. I cannot remember when they came out. It was beginning of the 20s.
So Killing Joke came out in like 2000 and I think it's like 2008 something.
Yeah, that was very similar. Like when we were making like our first albums, we listened to a lot of that.
I'm wrong, by the way. I've just double checked. Sorry, it's 2003. And Hosanna's from the Basement of Hell is 2006.
Yeah. It came like in that formative period, and we were listening a lot of those two albums. I haven't been checking their later stuff after those, but those two had big influence. And
Absolute Descent that came out after Hosanna's in the Basement of Hell, or from the Basement of Hell, I should say. It's not a bad record, but it's not as venomous. It doesn't sound as angry as Hosanna's from the Basement of Hell. The self-titled record, just one song. I've spoken about it before on the podcast, but just to reiterate to everybody, one of the best songs, in my opinion, that's ever been written in any style of music is Total Invasion, second track off of the self-titled album. And not one they do live very much anymore, unfortunately, but fuck me, it's astounding. And they actually had it on the live record that they put out in like 2010, I think, or 2009. Phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a great album. I don't know how they could come back like that.
No, absolutely not.
It's like a band with a pretty legendary discography already, and then they come back with that kind of album. I think it's mind-blowing.
100%. So years for me, the most burning question when I think about where you guys are as a band, where you're heading as a band, how absolutely, or was it, and if it was, how absolutely intimidating was it to follow up your previous record? Because it feels to me like you're pushing yourselves creatively to such a point on that album. If I put myself in your shoes, like having to now write something to follow that up must be that must be a daunting task. I would certainly think it's part of the reason why it took you guys 4 years to put together the sequel.
I think you're onto something there, because it was very difficult to follow that album, and it was kind of like the culmination of all those years that we have been finding that hypnotic touch and looking for those atmospheres. It all came very concisely on the Mestarin Kynsi. I think, like many things that we had been trying to do for many years, that we pulled off better than on previous albums, in my personal opinion. And it was kind of difficult then to figure out what to do next, because we realized that it doesn't feel like a good idea to try to like replicate that. And when we started writing new music, we realized that, okay, this sounds like a little bit like Mestarin Kynsi, but it's maybe not as good. And then we shifted a little bit. We were thinking that, okay, we want to like blow this process into pieces, and we completely changed the way that we are approaching the writing process. And we started doing music so that we just put down pieces of like noise or riffs and like small fragments, and then we went to studio and recorded those smaller pieces, and then we came back home and we started to put those together on like cutting table, and like incorporating all kind of using studio as an instrument in a way, and trying to like use the jams and all that free form jamming feeling as a part of like kind of building block to a more shorter song or something like that. So we were experimenting a lot, and we went to the studio 3 times. First time we just like wanted to get source material for doing all these experiments, and then we kind of slowly figured out how to do it. And it was really slow and kind of painful process, but I'm really happy that in the end we found like I think we found some really nice new places, like musically, where we want to be.
So there's something then to the I mean, if I translate, and again, as I said, apologies to everyone in Finland for how I'm about to fuck this up, but if I take the direct translation for Muuntautuja, that translates to transformation or shape shifting. So there's definitely there's intent behind that relative to the material on the record.
Yeah, the lyrical focus on the album is like heavily playing with this idea of transformation and shape shifting, and like there is this mental exercise, if you will, that you are stepping through some door or portal and you find yourself in a new room, and the space has changed, and we wanted those musical soundscape to feel so that you feel that you have entered a new space every time. For example, in a song, the song moves to a second part, and then you feel like you have opened door and you are getting sucked into this new situation or new kind of environment and trying to figure out where the hell am I, that kind of thing. And yeah, it is morphing. We are trying to like take these ideas from electronic music, that you might have like a steady thing going on, like some minimalistic, repetitive thing, but it is never the same. Like it is always moving a little bit. And in 1 minute or two, you are starting to realize that you are not in the same place where you left. And we were trying to incorporate that into like band playing.
Well, brother, I haven't heard the whole thing yet, but I'm really, really excited about doing so. The previous album was a mainstay for me. You know, from the moment that it came out, you know, I don't think there's a week that's gone by that I've not listened to it at least once. So, you know, looking to hear what you guys do next, and from the 2 songs that you've released so far, you know, I'm super, super excited. And I just really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for the chat, and thanks for shedding some light on the Oransi Pazuzu process. And also, I'm comforted by the fact that you know Death Grips, number 1, and you're also into other good music. So,
hey, thanks a lot for the chat, and it was thanks for the nice words, and it was nice to be invited to this one.
Due for release on October the 11th by Nuclear Blast. That was a track called Muuntautuja off the album of the same name. That band, unmistakably Oransi Pazuzu. And if you like what you heard, head over to their Bandcamp, link in the description to the podcast. Buy yourself some music and let them know who sent you. I was not kidding when I said I have wanted somebody from Oransi Pazuzu on the podcast for about as long as Into the Necrosphere has been running. So very, very pleased I finally managed to get that done. And if you've not spent a significant degree of time yet with this band's back catalogue, it's not for everybody, but if it's a band that, if you are willing to invest the time into what these guys do, I think that you will thank me for it. You'll thank me for the recommendation, as many of you guys frequently do. Phenomenal stuff. New album is excellent. All the previous records are superb as well. Normally around this time of the show, I would give you an overview of some of my favorite releases of the last weekend. It's been a pretty decent release weekend as it goes, but whether it's Mork or whether it's Glacial Tomb, Kublai Khan, anything and everything that came out this past weekend was overshadowed by the release of one single. It will come as no surprise that that single comes to us courtesy of Canada's own Panzerfaust. They dropped a surprise announcement this past week in that their brand new album, The Sons of Perdition Chapter 4, To Shadow Zion, will be released on the 22nd of November through Eisenwald Records. I have not heard the whole thing, but if this single is anything to go by, then another contender for the top spot as far as the best albums of 2024 has very truly stepped into the arena. Normally, I would just wrap up a new track like this in the news rant, but this song is too good to listen to in a or to just give you guys a 2-minute taste of. So we're going to listen to the whole thing. I want you to sit back, crank up whatever you are listening to this podcast on, and enjoy the soothing sounds of When Even the Ground is Hostile. The very first taste of the upcoming Panzerfaust record, the song is entitled When Even the Ground is Hostile, and that's taken from their forthcoming album, The Sons of Perdition, Chapter 4, To Shadow Zion, due out for release through Eisenwald Records on November the 22nd. Absolutely spectacular. I mean, this is beyond top-notch. And I am most certainly going to try and get Brock back on the podcast as well. They're going to be playing in London. I'm going to try and see them on November the 26th, I think is when that show takes place. So if you are there, you might see me around. But I'm going to try my very best to do a face-to-face interview there. I think that'll be a nice way to cap the year off as well. Right now, my friends, if the sounds of Panzerfaust just made you sob into your vegan frosted flakes, then it's time to hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
All right, my friends, metalstorm.net is where we kick off as per usual. Metalstorm.net, the finest metal news website in all the land, and I don't get paid to say that. But we kick off with The Hypothesis, who have released a brand new track called Here I Stand. Here I Stand is the second single from The Hypothesis oncoming studio record Evolve. It's premiered online in the form of an official lyric video. The new outing is ready to land in stores on October the 18th via Noble Demon. I remember the Hypothesis debut record called, I believe, Origin. That dropped in 2016, and the main reason I remember is because as staff writer on Metal Rules until 2012, I had subscribed to, or certainly been enrolled in, a number of promo services, and one of those promo services happened to send me that record. I listened to it and was rather indifferent to it. It's very stock standard, paint by numbers, melodic death metal stuff with a bit of a Scandinavian twist. I think these guys are from Sweden or from Finland. But either way, I don't believe they've actually done much since that record came out, so I thought they might have been one and done. Clearly that's not the case. So let's hear what Here I Stand sounds like. So that incredibly low testosterone, clean singing there, it makes me inclined to just want to rip this apart, but I'm going to take a balanced approach and say, in the first instance, the drum sound is pretty decent. The rhythm, the groove of the song, quite like that. I think Juuso Turkki, the vocalist, when he's actually doing his grinding vocals. He's not bad. It does remind me an awful lot of late 90s new metal, this. And I kept on thinking, and I don't know why, because I mean, it has been years since I've even heard, let alone listened to that album, but I kept on thinking of a record by Nothing Face called The Pacifier. I'm going to have to go back now to try and make a connection as to why I'm comparing these two. But either way, it's got a bit of a new metal vibe to it. It also has a bit of an AI vibe to it. And I'm not casting any aspersions here or making any accusations. My good friend Lawrence sent me a song the other night that he done on AI, really just to kind of demonstrate, how wild it is. It doesn't sound a million miles removed from this, I don't think. I mean, is it completely and utterly terrible? No. Would the 12-year-olds who attend Download as their first ever festival absolutely love it? If these guys came on at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, probably. I think maybe if, you're frothing at the loins at the thought of a brand new Vended album, or, every time that Slipknot announce that they're going to put out an unreleased track, you begin to cry with joy. Maybe you're going to think this is great then. I certainly don't think this is melodic death metal. It doesn't, it sounds a fair bit different to Origin. I think Evolve is quite a self-aware title, probably in that regard. Too bad they didn't evolve into anything that I am particularly interested in. Moving swiftly along, Stormcast have debuted a brand new song. Melodic, atmospheric black metal crew Stormcast unveil a lyric video for Ad Astra, the first advanced single coming from their upcoming third full-length Tremors in the Ether. The latter comes out on November the 29th, 2024. No sign of which label is putting this out, and no sign of a label logo on the ad that they've got, or the graphic that they've got on the article. Nice album cover, though. No idea what Stormcast sounds like, though. I do know that Dinko, I think his surname is Pellick, he plays in a band here in the UK called Vehement. I think he used to play drums for them, potentially still does. Good dude. He's been on Cheyenne's podcast before as well, into MMA. So, black metal, MMA, it puts him in the okay bracket in my book. But enough talking. Let's hear what Ad Astra sounds like. So I was correct about the fact that this band is unsigned. Their first album came out on, I think, a label called Pitch Black Records. And then since then, they've not put out anything on a record label. The Ghost Eater was the record they put out previously. That came out in 2018, unsigned according to Metal Archives. And apparently Tremors in the Ether is due to be independent as well, which I mentioned because I'm quite surprised. I don't know whether they've done that out of their own choice. because this is the kind of thing that I could easily see signed up by a number of different labels. It's not necessarily my strain of black metal or my strain of preferred black metal, but in terms of melodic black metal, it's got a reasonably unique sound. It should probably come as no surprise that both the guitarist / vocalist and the bassist come from Cyprus, because there are some fairly overt Rotting Christ references in those riffs, which isn't a bad thing. Rotting Christ seems to be a constant in terms of influence on pretty much most bands from Greece. But yeah, I can definitely see this going over well with a bigger audience. And so I'm surprised that it hasn't necessarily found a label that is interested in carrying them. Like I said, could very well be that the guys have just chosen to do that of their own accord. Nothing that I'm completely and utterly blown away by, I should add, but I can definitely see that it'll find its audience. And unlike the Hypothesis, potentially a few more folks amongst the Legion that'll enjoy that. Versus what we listened to previously. Okay, moving on. The next article drawing my attention, Annihilator have posted a new song. Mythical Texas thrashers Annihilator have launched a lyric video of the song Memories of Terror. It's the second advanced single from their upcoming debut album Death is Calling, which will see the light on October the 22nd through Extreme Music on CD, 12-inch LP, cassette and digital formats. Pretty groovy looking cover. Never heard of Annihilator before. I can take or leave most modern thrash bands not named Spirit World or Power Trip, and even Spirit World is probably strictly speaking not thrash. That being said, let's hear what this sounds like. I know I let that run for a bit because I was hoping something would salvage the song, but definitely don't judge a book by its cover in this case. Don't judge a song by the album cover. This just doesn't work on any level. That riff is all over the place. The vocals don't really even seem to align to the main riff properly. There's no groove. There's no hook. If you think about those bands that I mentioned earlier, and then the treasure trove of the old guard that still put out great records, Sadist, Testament, Exodus, bands like that. I mean, I can understand why this band has kind of been in limbo for a long time. I was having a quick gander at their bio on Metal Archive. According to Metal Archive, their status is currently disputed. They formed in 1986, apparently. And then, various demos, EPs, whatnot. This is their actual debut full length, but whether or not they made us wait 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it doesn't really matter. This is shite. I'll tell you something else that's shite. The attitude of the Power Trip fans who are en masse sobbing and crying on Instagram about the fact that Power Trip are going to be supporting Pantera in 2025 in Europe. Some of the sobbing includes, remember when Riley said he didn't want to be associated with Phil Anselmo for obvious reasons? I'm fine with y'all getting a new vocalist. I love Fugitive and Scourge, but this is actually truly insulting to his legacy. We'll read a couple of comments just to give you a flavor. Going to be a lot of dudes kissing their dads on the mouth during the Pantera set. Riley would not approve, reads another. Atrophy of morality. Pretty grim this, not gonna lie. NGL, like a fucking douchebag. Riley wouldn't think this is okay. You know, I've spoken about this previously on the news rant. The Dime Bash, the infamous Dime Bash incident, happened in January 2016. Phil apologized. There's been no racist behavior or utterances or anything of the sort from him since, at least not that I'm aware. We're talking about 8 years and 7 months ago, and they're still carrying on like the man is Adolf Hitler reincarnated, when somehow they gave the likes of Jeff Hanneman, Lemmy, the guys in Metallica, and a bunch of other bands a pass for doing the same thing. The man made a socially irresponsible, insensitive, drunken joke, and for whatever reason, these fucking idiots just cannot let it go. I mean, you know, again, I could rant and rave about this for hours on end, but why these people have infiltrated the metal scene, I have no fucking idea. This isn't the scene for them. If you're upset by things that are abrasive, obnoxious, controversial, this is not the scene for you to be in. Go listen to fucking Hanson or Weezer. Go somewhere safe. Go to Pearl Jam shows. That's really where you belong. Metal isn't the place for you. From my perspective, kudos to Power Trip for landing this support slot, because, as I said when Pantera got together, when they first announced the reunion, I personally think Pantera should have been taking more young bands out on the road with them, including Spirit World, including Enforced, including bands like that, because that's how we build the next generation's headliners. As things stand right now, Metallica, Slayer, Pantera, these bands I don't personally think are doing enough to give the rub to younger bands and, help build up that next generation. So, fuck these crying, fucking sniveling idiots. Hopefully Power Trip go in there and they convert every single person in that building night after night after night. As a matter of fact, makes me reconsider whether I'll go and see the show in February when they play in London. Okay, let's check out some more music. Unto Others reveal music video for Suicide Today. Now, this is definitely a band that I haven't paid much attention to. I know from everything I've seen smattered across YouTube and everywhere else that a lot of folks are losing their ever-loving minds about Unto Others. A lot of people, I think, have even called this new record Never Neverland the best album of the year, which is a fucking tall order. And considering the source of some of this praise, most likely not one I'm going to agree with, but it says here, as part of their newly released record Never Neverland, Unto Others have presented an official music video for Suicide Today. It was directed by the great Zeph Deans. Let's check it out.
A man who was never sober.
Right, my rating, extreme shite. It's basically, it sounds like fucking Christian rock with a bit of a goth influence to it. If you want to hear this type of music, check out Poison Ruin on Relapse. But this is god-awful. All right, next, Woe, touring Europe next month. I might go and see that, but one thing I just want to mention, actually, very exciting news. We had Chris Grieg from Woe on Into the Necrosphere about 40 episodes ago. He has finally launched Ampwall, which obviously he spoke about at length when he was on the podcast. And Ampwall, for anybody that didn't pay attention to that episode, in which case, shame on you. Ampwall is being presented as an alternative to Bandcamp. So I'll post a link to Ampwall in the description. I was about to say to Ampwall's Bandcamp. I'm going to post a link to Ampwall in the description to the podcast. If you're in a band, or even if you're just somebody who wants to check out something different to Bandcamp, head over there and register. Let's show Chris as much support as possible. A huge amount of work has gone into this. I've been following him on Twitter. He's been giving a lot of routine updates as they've made improvements to the service. I know they want to present something that's very much geared towards musicians first, and providing an alternative outlet for musicians, which I think is extremely important. So, he deserves as much love as we can possibly show him. That particular episode, by the way, if you're interested in checking it out, was episode 201. And he'll be on the podcast again at some point in the future without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, next up, Gigan have posted a new track. Gigan is a progressive technical death metal group who now offer us in listening Trans-Dimensional Crossing of the Alta Tenuis, the opening track from their forthcoming studio record, Anomalous Abstrigatate Infinitesimus. I'm sure I fucked that up, but anyway. Coming October the 25th through Willowtip Records. Album cover and song title is causing me to have question marks about whether I'm going to enjoy this or not, but we'll find out in just a few seconds. This is an 8-minute track, so I may jump to the halfway mark of the song, just so, because I want to hear what the vocals sound like, and I kind of feel like this intro is going to go on for a little bit. I will say this though, that is probably the best 1 minute and 20 seconds of music I've listened to so far on the News Rant this week. Really like the dissonance with that very subtle touch of melody that just kind of sits in the undercurrent of the song. I like the atmosphere. I like the build-up of the track. This is sounding remarkably promising at the moment, and it's certainly not what I expected. So let's hear where we're at the 4-minute mark of the track. can't believe I'm about to say this, but that gets a top notch. Love the vocals. Love when we go from dissonance to order, when there's order in the chaos. I just think every single thing about this is fucking excellent. Excellent. I want to give it another 60 seconds because I'm just curious to hear where the song goes to next. But I mean, this certainly sounds distinct. It sounds dark. It sounds aggressive, severe. Their vocalist, Jerry Cavaliris, again, I'm sure I've wrecked the pronunciation of his surname, but it looks like a fucking badass. He's got the right look for a vocalist, in my opinion. Just everything is spot on here, as far as I'm concerned. As a side note, their drummer Nate Cotton is also in a band called Bedlam of Cacophony. I like that name. I'm not going to lie, I prefer that name to Gigan. But I'm sure there's some sort of significance to it. Either way, I love it. What I've heard so far, I absolutely love. That melodic lead has just taken it to the next level. Phenomenal. Gigan, just to lift the shroud of that mystery, is apparently a cyborg space monster sporting a buzzsaw weapon in its frontal abdominal region and large metallic hooks for hands. So I'm not sure whether that's something particularly significant, but either way, it sounds like a cool looking monster. Regardless, this is fucking excellent, and it gets a top notch without a shadow of a doubt. Mark your calendars for October the 25th when that comes out. It's going to be, I'm super excited about hearing the rest of it. Okay, let's check out what we've got next. Walking Wounded have joined forces with Relapse Records. It says here, metallic hardcore juggernauts from Cleveland, Ohio, Walking Wounded, are pleased to announce that they've signed a contract with Relapse Records. The latter will also handle the release of the band's Bestial Condemnation EP. That's a cool name, Bestial Condemnation. It sounds tough. Walking Wounded, not a bad name either. Generally speaking, like as you guys probably know, there's just certain labels where, even though they don't always hit it out of the park when a band is signed to that label, I'm generally interested in hearing what they sound like. This is no exception. Let's hear a track that they've got posted here called Food for the Crows.
I
Breakdown isn't bad, but the rest of the song is pretty middle of the road. I mean, it sounds to me like the kind of band that would open for Terror or open for Hatebreed, and you'd probably be at the bar getting a beer, and turning around from time to time, going, yeah, this isn't bad. But nothing that's really blowing my mind. I'll tell you what, for that style of music, the new Kublai Khan that came out this weekend is fucking absolutely brilliant. Sheriff Mike Scandato turned me on to them, and he was not wrong. I just want to see what the name of the new album is. And then I can at least turn you guys onto it as well. Exhibition of Prowess is the name of the record. Definitely worth checking out. I really enjoyed that. Body Count are presenting a cover of Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb. This is an interesting choice. Body Count have released their rendition of Pink Floyd's classic Comfortably Numb featuring David Gilmour. The cover song will appear on the band's forthcoming record Merciless, due out on November the 22nd via Century Media Records. Funnily enough, I was actually watching Sopranos, and on the episode Heidi and Kennedy, one of the last episodes in season 6, this song is playing because it was also featured on the Departed soundtrack. The version on there has got Van Morrison. Fantastic. Probably the best version of that song, in my opinion, in part because I love The Departed and also love The Sopranos. But yeah, when I saw that they had decided to do this, I was really surprised. If you think about stuff they've done in the past, they're not, in my opinion, particularly good at recording cover songs. In any case, I thought that their Raining Blood cover was fucking total trash. Institutionalized, I didn't think was very good either. But then, if you think about it, the only cover that they have done that wasn't dreadful was Hey Joe, the Jimi Hendrix track. So maybe something slower suits them more so than trying to give their own spin on a metal song. Either way, let's without further ado, let's hear what this sounds like.
Spinning spear, when will I leave here? We know death is always near. I try to understand, but answers don't come easily. Friends always deceiving me. Is this what life's supposed to be? Human animals, we roam the earth in search of blood. Hope for humanity? I don't think there ever was. We're in perpetual war. That's the only law. Can I change it? I doubt it, so I write songs about it. I was young once, but now I've grown old. Right in front of your eyes, you see my life unfold. I had no choices, I became the underdog's voice. A young black kid, look what the fuck I did. When I'm gone, there'll be someone to carry on. We can give and give up, or we can stay strong. How accepting of the bullshit we've all become. This whole world is comfortably numb.
That is a swing and a miss, I'm afraid. There have been so many people that have tried to cover that song, and they have failed absolutely dismally. I thought Ghosts of Atlantis did an admirable job of it. I don't know whether this was last year or the year before, but we listened to it on the news rant. But beyond that, most bands aren't able to do it and do it justice, and Body Count is no exception. So fair dues to them for trying. but they should stick to what they're good at. Like, when I think of great body count songs, I think of stuff like Enter the Dark Side, Manslaughter, the song Body Count. Those are the kinds of songs that they're best at. It kind of needs to be borderline knuckle dragging hardcore, filtered through Ice-T's View of the World, filtered through Ice-T's gangster rap past. That's when they're at their absolute best. But when they try and do different stuff, I mean, again, I appreciate the fact that they experiment, but it's just like I said, doesn't hit the mark. All right, Imperial Triumphant have launched a new track and video. Imperial Triumphant's brand new track, Eye of Mars, is officially out today. You can stream the new music piece together with an official music video directed by Brendan McGowan. We've kind of been back and forth on this band, on this very news rant, particularly with that last series of cover songs that they released. A couple there that I thought were, surprisingly very good. As we're on the topic of covers, this seems like it's the first new thing they've put out in a while that's original, so let's hear what it sounds like. I'm really trying to wrap my head around what I'm listening here, but I think when it comes to Imperial Triumphant, that's kind of the point. It's not. I don't want to write it off. There's a part of me that wants to go back and re-listen to this a couple of times before I actually deliver a definitive verdict. There's part of me that thinks it's just a bunch of cacophonous fucking racket, but yeah, I'm undecided, I've got to say. If we break it down to all of the elements, I like those vocals, especially the production of the vocals. There's this, on at least on these cans, this really like big, wide soundstage for the vocals that I think suit the song really, really well. It does have a pretty cool and pretty unique atmosphere to it. I just don't know if it's something that I can listen to on the reg. It feels to me like it's something that'll be interesting to hear in its entirety, but it isn't necessarily going to be something I'm going to want to return to. I still want some sort of semblance of traditional melody, if there's going to be melody in something, or just something that I can latch onto, and I don't feel like the song is necessarily giving me that something. But Imperial Triumphant fans, let me know what you guys think, because I know there's a fair few of you. I know, as an example, that the Archdeacon of the Necrosphere, Marco of Stellar Master Elite, is a big fan. So let me know what you guys think of this. I didn't even realize that they're putting out new music. So this is a bit of a surprise. Just having a scan on their socials, no sign of whether or not there is a full-length album in the works, but I mean, you can almost be rest assured that there is. Okay, we move on to some sad news. Brujo have lost their founding member and vocalist. Juan Brujo, the founder and vocalist of the band Brujo, has passed away. According to the band, Brujo suffered a heart attack on Monday and was immediately taken to a hospital. Despite the medical team's efforts, he passed away, and due to this incident, the band had already cancelled all tour dates on Monday. Whether they will return after this latest tragic blow remains to be seen. I can't see that happening. Here is the band's latest official statement. It's with deep sadness that we have to announce that our leader, Juan Brujo, has passed away today. Juan suffered a heart attack on early Monday morning after a day off from the current Mexor tour in St. Clairsville, Ohio. He was rushed to the nearest hospital in Wheeling, West Virginia by emergency services, but despite the medical team's greatest efforts, he died this morning. His family, friends, and bandmates are devastated and wish to mourn in private while they appreciate the fans' love and support. Yeah, man, shit news. I had the good fortune to see Brujo a couple of times. They were always phenomenal. Like one of the most unique, one of the most fun live experiences I've ever had. Heavy as shit, just so much attitude and just so much badassness on stage. I just loved the band's whole vibe. I remember hearing them when Matando Hueros came out, and I honestly was like nervous hearing it. It felt like music that it made you feel filthy afterwards, and it made you feel like you'd listen to, some truly criminal underground stuff, especially with the album cover and everything else. Then Rosa Odiada came out, great record. Brujerismo came out, fucking superb album, which to this day I still really love. So yeah, it's sad news. Shane Embury wrote a really heartfelt message on his Instagram, and I'll leave it to you guys to check that out if you're that way inclined. But I think it's hit him pretty hard. I'm sure it's hit his remaining bandmates pretty hard as well. So, from my side, on behalf of the Legion, my humblest and most profound condolences to everybody affected by this. I'm just very, very fortunate. I feel very fortunate and blessed that I had the opportunity to see them live when that chance was still there. Okay, let's move on. Ershetu have put out or have detailed their second full-length cinematic black metal project. Ershetu proudly announced their second full-length offering, Yomi. The latter explores the death folklore of Japanese Shinto in 6 powerful compositions and will be released on November the 8th via Deborah Morty Productions. It features Vince Val of Blood Aus Noord on lead vocals, bass, and additional guitars. Recording and mixing was handled by Vince Val at Earth Sound Studio, produced by Bruno Varia at Upload Studio. The band's first single and opening track, Ketsurui, is available for streaming with the accompanying video clip. Let's hear what it sounds like. So when that track kicks in with the black metal side of things, I mean, you instantly hear Vince Vaugh's fingerprints all over it. It's got a Bluthaus Nord kind of vibe to it, but with that traditional Japanese music, I think it presents something that's really original, really interesting. I love it. I mean, I really like the previous Ershetu record as well, Zibulba, and I think this one definitely lands on the mark and on the money as well. I know that Psy and bands like that have done their incorporation of Japanese traditional musical elements into their sound, but I just like the way that it's delivered and presented. Yeah. One thing to add in here, composer Sakura shares his insights into the conceptual background of Yomi. Void and I love Japanese culture, especially for its history, mythology, Buddhism, and of course its sounds. The country is fascinating because of its high-tech side and its attachment to ancestral customs. It was completely natural. It was a completely natural choice for us. There are no similarities between Zibulba and Yomi because this time we're addressing death linked to a religion that is still practiced by more than 90 million people today. The Mayans were a civilization. The approach is therefore different from my point of view. So lots of thought going into it as well. I like that. Also, fucking fantastic album cover too. I mean, I not to cheapen the art or the artistic side of things, but that's going to make a fucking brilliant t-shirt. And what I will also say, just as a side note, because this is something important to me, so I'm assuming it's going to be important to you, the quality of Deba Memorti t-shirts is fantastic. So if you've ever wanted to buy any of the stuff that they have, that they've got on their web store, buy with confidence. Anyway, let's give it another 60 seconds. That earns a top notch without a shadow of a doubt. Great use of that epic melody and that change in the tone of the song after some very smartly deployed clean vocals. I fucking love it. Really looking forward to it. All right, let's maybe listen to one more, and then we'll have a quick scan across the other metal news websites. I did see Dawn of Ouroboros. But I dread to hear what that sounds like because the last single was, truly unlistenable. We've also got a new Devin Townsend single out. Jainism is the name of the song. I can only imagine how bad it sounds. And then Kanon and Fieber have unleashed Waffenbruder, a new song. It says here, Waffenbruder is the latest single from Kanon and Fieber's forthcoming studio record, Die Urkatastrophe. This is premiered in the form of an official music video directed by Dariusz Shermankowicz. Let's hear what it sounds like. It's better than that first single that they put out. Marco and I listened to that a couple of weeks ago, but it's still not really doing much for me. I know that they're playing London in November with Panzerfaust in support. I'm going to say this respectfully. I've no idea why Panzerfaust is supporting them. I mean, I know why they're a more popular band. I've just no idea why Panzerfaust isn't a more popular band, because musically they are vastly superior. All right, let's head over to the Democrats' Guide to Rock Music. And one thing that I am particularly keen in us checking out this weekend was the first Slayer live shows for several years. It says actually 5 years is the confirmed time frame. They played, of course, in Douglas Park in Chicago, and pretty decent set list from what I can tell. Opened up with South of Heaven, Reborn. They played that for the first time since 2014. Blood Red, Postmortem, Repentless, Complete Shite. That I would have kept out. Payback, of course, wouldn't have put that in either. Temptation, pretty decent. Jihad, dreadful. Seasons in the Abyss, great. Born of Fire, superb. War Ensemble, masterpiece. Hate Worldwide, shit. Disciple, shit. Deadskin Mask, okay. Hallowaits, masterpiece. 213, fucking brilliant. Mandatory Suicide, Raining Blood, Black Magic, and Angel of Death. Black Magic, the greatest of all Slayer songs. So, there is some footage that has been included in the article. We won't read what looks like about 30 paragraphs worth of word salad that they've included with us. But what I am especially interested in hearing is what Tom's voice sounded like. And also, of course, I want to see what the stage production looked like, because a couple of weeks ago we read that, this was the most money, apparently, that they'd ever spent on a stage production. And what we can see here from the thumbnail is a burning upside-down cross. Very edgy. All right, let's hear what this sounds like. Fucking Tom still sounds fantastic. I'll tell you something, if you're watching this with me on YouTube or on Spotify, one thing you will never have seen in the halcyon days of Slayer is a little kid on his dad's shoulders near the front row. You can kind of see the shadow, yeah, but I mean, in fairness to this little boy, he seems to be having the absolute time of his life. Arms waving around, he's doing the moves, he's doing the actions. Yeah, that sounds really good. That sounds better than I thought that they were going to sound. And Tom, like I said, sounds fantastic. Folks, I am going to call it. Slayer are getting back together again. There's no way they're going to play a show like that. And I know I'm only judging from 2 minutes of a live clip that somebody recorded on their cell phone, but there's no way they're going to play a show like that and then call it done. And I knew it at the time. I said it back in fucking 2018 or 2019 or whatever it is when I last saw them. that this wasn't going to be the end. They'll be back together again. Whether they'll make a new album, I don't know. Personally, based on the quality of their last couple of albums, I frankly prefer that they just don't do that again. But they could go out and tour, Show No Mercy, Haunting the Chapel, everything up to and including Seasons in the Abyss, with a little smattering of divine intervention in there, and I'll be perfectly happy. All right. Skillet's John Cooper. If anybody wants to use my music at political rallies, go for it. I think he's hinting that that Trump maybe use some Skillet music at the very next Trump rally. Anyway, ex Butcher Baby singer Carla Harvey launches a new project, The Violent Hour. It says here, former Butcher Baby singer Carla Harvey has launched a new project called The Violent Hour. At least some of the early recording sessions for the project have been overseen by producer Jay Rooston, who was previously working with Anthrax, Steel Panther, and Uriah Heep, amongst many others. I'm not all that interested in anything that she does, quite frankly, but this does remind me of the fact that I watched The Substance over the weekend. The Substance, of course, being the new Demi Moore movie, loads of hype. I would say if you are going to watch it, you may want to calibrate your expectations a little bit. I think some of the hype comes from a place where the people that are spewing this are also using phrases like, "The Substance is a scathing indictment on patriarchal beauty standards." As soon as I hear that sort of thing, I immediately want to fucking run for the hills. And I actually feel like it's a bit of you're kind of missing the target a little bit with the movie by calling it a scathing attack on patriarchal beauty standards, especially because the director spends most of her time obsessing. And when I mean obsessing, I mean like it's shot almost like a fucking Jules Jordan movie. If you know what I mean, about every single nook and cranny of her two main female stars' bodies. Justifiably so. And as a side note, if your wife or your girlfriend looks like Demi Moore at the age of 61, you need to go down on your knees and thank whoever you worship for the luck that has befallen you. But back to the movie. It's decent. I felt like, and I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but I felt like had the movie ended on a specific scene that occurs about 15 minutes prior to the ending, had it ended on that specific scene, the movie would have been excellent. It would have been really hard-hitting. It would have ended on a note where it continues to treat its subject matter with an appropriate degree of seriousness. It kind of loses the plot a bit towards the end, and that's not giving away a spoiler. It's, a lot of people have spoken about the ending. The ending is cool, but it's an extravagance. I'll leave it at that. But good movie. And Demi Moore did a fucking fantastic job in the lead. This is kind of like the equivalent of Mickey Rourke doing The Wrestler. When you watched him do that, you knew that was the role that he was absolutely born to play. This is her wrestler. So would definitely recommend it. In my view, if I were to start tiering my movies for my favorite movies of 2024, it is definitely not. It's not on a par with Civil War or with Maxine, but I did enjoy it. Sepultura's Andreas Kisser on where he stands with Max and Igor Cavalera today. There's no relationship at all. In a new interview with Mark Kadzalawa of 69 Faces of Rock, Sepultura guitarist Andreas Kisser was once again asked about the possibility of reuniting with original frontman Max Cavalera and drummer Igor Cavalera for a final show to cap off the band's ongoing farewell tour. He basically goes on to say that, yes, he would love for that to happen, but at the moment, all they're doing is communicating with each other through management, and that's it. I would say, when did the breakup happen? 1996? There comes a point in anyone's life, whether you're man or woman, where it's time to just let bygones be bygones. Those guys had an awful lot of success together. You could make the argument that they would never have been as successful had they not gone on that journey together, had it not been the four of them, Paolo, Andreas, Igor, and Max. yes, there was a lot of bad blood when that breakup happened, but I just feel like maybe the one Brujo thing snaps it into focus. There's way more to life than, holding grudges and being pissed off with people forever. And especially with somebody that you share a past and share a history with, to completely write that person off. I might be wrong, but I just feel like it's a bit of a waste. And I do think that you need to, especially as we all get older, you need to realize that time is finite, and you might not get the chance to do it again if you delay today. Max Cavalera or Igor, any of those guys could keel over of a heart attack, same as Juan Brujo. And then if you're Andreas Kessa, all you're left with is regrets, and that's no place for anybody to. That's no place anybody wants to find themselves in. And I don't want to, sound like a fucking cat poster or like I'm a motivational speaker, but it's just something that came to mind. On that note, folks, I think probably the only way we could have ended this week's episode is with a track by Brujeria. I'm going to play one of my very favorite Brujeria tracks. This was off Brujerismo. It's a song called Cida de la Mente. It is hard as fuck. I want to say to every single member of the Legion, whatever it is that you're doing and wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.
Del virus, de lo que sigue no hay salida. Lo que es vida, tu Dios decida. Organismo listo del anticristo. Siga de la mente. Cingando tu gente, todo tiene dos lados, unos bien, otros malos. ¿Qué va a hacer? Que decida, más potente, yo no soy. Todo tiene dos lados, unos bien, otros malos. ¿Qué va a hacer? Que decida, más potente, yo no soy. Alguien no. ¡Gracias, Brujo! Salemos de este lado, ¡maldiciones! Salemos de este lado, buscando la salida. Salemos de este lado, todo ya no. Todo viejo. Salemos de este lado. Hoy sientes el poder de virus. Si ves que son ideas solamente, el que infecta, el brujo decida.